Next up, we got a full recap of the 2023-2024 NFL season. Now, it's light little 30-minute video, you know what I mean? Full recap. Now, I guarantee you, you do not remember every single thing that happened this past NFL season. I guarantee you. It's just like rewatching a movie. It could be your favorite movie, and you go back to rewatch it, and you be like, dang, I forgot this was even in the movie. You know what I mean? It's going to be the same thing. So I feel like this is perfect right now to go back and see what happened last season, especially coming into the 24 season, and to really understand what's going on. You know what I mean? So let me know in the comments also, too. I'm doing reactions on players, also team reactions, all right? So maybe I'll react to a team's best highlights throughout the whole season. Just let me know in the comments. Anything y'all want me to react to, I got you. Okay? So, hey, let's have it.
Okay, so the 2023-24 NFL season is over,
shout out to Tub Frog. Make sure I go subscribe. I'm here to sub for you, my bad, bro. It's actually my first time checking out this channel. I think just judging off this video so far, just off the first 4 seconds, okay? I already know I'm probably gonna have to react to some more of Tub Frog. So y'all go hit that sub button.
Okay, so the 2023-24 NFL season is over, but man, what a wild ride it was. Rookies broke out left and right. There were so many surprise teams and players, disappointments everywhere, and somehow the Frog guy won again. It was just a season like I've never really experienced before. But enough talking, and let's go all the way back to the distant year of 2023 and recap the entire 2023-2024 NFL season. After months of sitting in the darkness, fiending for the brown ball sport to return, it did. On September 7th, 2023, the defending champion Kansas City Chiefs, without Chris Jones and Taylor Swift's big strong man, took on the Detroit Lions, and immediately the Lions gave us all some great entertainment. Dan Campbell set the tone beautifully for the whole year in Detroit, going for it on their own 17-yard line, and the Chiefs' lack of weapons really looked like it was going to cost them throughout the season. I mean, Mahomes can't do everything himself, right? But after that Thursday game, I'm not going to lie to you, week one was kind of full of highs and lows. Calvin Ridley edged me for 2 quarters into thinking I just made the best fantasy decision of my life, only for the second half to come along, and I couldn't even tell you if he was on the field or not. And on the subject of disappointment to foreshadow a team's season, Joe Burrow and the Bengals looked terrible versus Cleveland, with Joe clearly not looking healthy, but instead, the Bengals refused to rest the man and ran their season into the ground because of that choice. Now, as week one winded down, it did get better, okay? Chargers vs. Dolphins was an amazing game. Tyreek Hill is still pretty good at football, with Brandon Staley beginning his season-long journey on how to learn Taiwanese. And the Giants also just got gutted by the Cowboys. And then on Monday, we got arguably the game of the year when Aaron Rodgers got a standing ovation, gave Jets fans a reason to live for like 6 minutes, and then tore his Achilles after one pass.
How, bro?
I mean, you just gotta love football. After the big Rodgers was sent to the gulag, the game got a little slow, with the Jets defense doing what they would do all year long.
Oh my God, Josh Hill.
Zach Wilson actually did something by giving Garrett Wilson a chance to do something, and the second overtime would then begin. The Jets defense came up huge, and I guess the Bills punter just gave up on the play, and the Jets ended up winning off of the walk-off punt. But
I feel like I didn't even know this has happened, to be honest. But I wonder if I react to this game. Did I react to this? I don't know. And this is another thing too. Last season, I didn't start from beginning to end. I think I started and then I like stopped for a minute, and then I started again like halfway. Or was that 2022 season? I don't remember. But I definitely do not remember this. But I feel like they really just won this game for Aaron Rodgers. I feel like same with the Bills. Remember Bills last year? The safety, I forgot his name. The safety had that heart thing. I forgot his name. I don't know why the name Jeffrey Dahmer is popping up in my head. It's something like his name rhymed with that though. It's something like that. But it's kind of similar to that. Like, they just won because of that. I don't think the Jets really was good enough to win just straight off skill. Okay? I feel like this is kind of scripted, to be honest. This is scripted. This is why this punter Just by this punter doing this.
Then began,
showed me it was
the
scripted.
Jets defense came up huge, and I guess the Bills punter just gave up on the play, and the Jets ended up winning off of the walk-off punt, but they would lose the war. Week 2 then began ramping up the pain a little bit, with the Lions and Seahawks going back and forth, only for Detroit to blow it in the final minutes, allowing a game-winning drive, while both the Chargers and Bears embarrassed themselves for the second week in a row. But then, the late window of games would start, and this week would begin a week-long stretch of the most unhinged part of the entire season. It started out with Giants vs. Cardinals, and fresh off of their close loss to the Cowboys, at one point, the Giants had been outscored 60-0 on the whole season, and there wasn't a 0% chance that Daniel Jones was crucified at halftime. But then they started to come back. In the coveted battle of mid, the New York Giants revived their season off of the big, strong, muscular hunky back of Saquon Barkley and put themselves right back on track to go 6-11. But that wasn't even the craziest game. After the Cardinals blew a 28-7 lead, the Denver Broncos found themselves up 21-3 on the Washington Commanders. And I'll be honest, Russell Wilson actually played pretty well in Week 1 and in Week 2 as well. He was doing at least an above-average job, and Denver looked like they could be a dark horse wildcard team. You know, until they weren't.
Pass to the end zone, touchdown, Robinson,
the chef was simply not cooking. The pan was cold, the gas was on, and you blink once and somehow Denver was down 9 with 2 minutes left. The stadium was completely dead, and even after getting a field goal to bring it within technically 1 possession, 4th and 3, barely in their own red zone, okay, cool, whatever. But the game goes on for a few more minutes, and I guess they're going to try a Hail Mary, which is, you know, always pretty fun, but it never really worked.
Wilson looking for a miracle. Gonna gather, unleashes towards the end zone. It is deflected in the air, and it's caught.
What the f***? That isn't even... Whatever. Look, because this is the 2023 Denver Broncos, a smile can only be followed up by the feeling of a nice cold block of cement dropped right on your nether regions, with Russell Wilson looking off a wide-open Jerry Jeudy.
Oh, wait,
and they lost to the fucking Commanders.
Oh, it didn't even matter?
Great stuff. Great stuff.
They did all that, and it didn't even matter?
To the fucking Commanders.
Yeah, Jeffrey is wide open. Yeah.
Oh, great stuff. Great
Jerry.
stuff. And sadly, to wrap off this week, we really never got to see the Cleveland Browns at full strength ever this entire season.
Oh, yeah,
as Nick Chubb went down with an injury that, as of right now...
And I actually just seen a video of Nick Chubb doing like 500-pound squats. Okay? So it's safe to say that he's back. Because I don't know what person that has a leg injury can do a 500-pound squat. Okay? So, I don't know. He should be back, right?
Unclear whether or not he'll even be ready to start the year or ever be at full strength again. Then Week 3 came along, and this week was probably pound for pound the best week of the whole season. The Chargers and Vikings blessed us with the most Chargers-Vikings game to ever Chargers-Vikings, with the Chargers charging. Then the Vikings responded by Viking, and it was just, it was glorious stuff all around. I mean, when have you ever seen a man drop a pick and the ball just lands right into the receiver's hands? Anyway, the Vikings then somehow fought back, but after going for it on his own 20, I guess the Vikings had a chance to win it now, but they really didn't want to win the game, as they had a horrid clock management sequence that led to an interception, and there's so much more games like this in just this week, because the Denver Broncos,
oh yeah, I remember this.
We're just on a titanic tear of depression early in the year, getting a casual 70 points scored on them. 70 points in an organized National Football League game.
This is not college football. I know NCAA just came out, but bro, not even in NCAA am I scoring 70 points. How?
If you watch this game live, consider yourself lucky, because there will never be a defensive performance this bad again for hopefully a long, long time. But still, losing by damn near 100 points to the Dolphins probably still wasn't as bad as losing to the Arizona Cardinals.
Oh yeah, I remember this too.
The Dallas Cowboys executed beautifully.
I remember this
Tony
too.
Pollard somehow managed to break 70 yards, and it resulted in a loss to the worst team in football. Yeah, Sounds about right. Week 4 slowed things down a little bit, but it
Because I remember this game. I remember reacting to this game. And I was sitting here like, bro.
Tony Pollard somehow managed to break 70 yards, and it resulted in a loss to the worst team in football. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Because I'm thinking like they was going to come back. Like they was maybe down. But at the same time, y'all still the Cowboys. And it's still the Cardinals. Okay? So it's maybe if y'all was BSing half the game, y'all can still somehow make a comeback and win, right? Right?
And it resulted in a loss to the worst team in football. Yeah, that sounds about right. Week 4 slowed things down a little bit, but it did have its moments. Puka Nacua, a rookie that was an actual nobody before this year, had another breakout performance, getting a game-winning touchdown. Kirk Cousins got absolutely flattened on this pick six. The Bears blew a 21-point lead to the Broncos. Which,
what's going on?
You know, you got to give him credit. It's a miracle alone that Vance Joseph didn't get fired or get at least rocks thrown at him after the Miami Massacre of 23, let alone he actually found a way to bounce back, and Denver won the game to basically save their season. Meanwhile, staying in the clown land known as the AFC West, the Raiders were back to their old shenanigans. Chandler Jones was out there preaching the gospel of Mark Davis 316, and on game day, Khalil Mack responded with a season-high 6 sacks as the Chargers managed to beat the Raiders with Justin Herbert not having a hand for an entire half. CJ Stroud played amazing in the destruction of Matt Canada's Steelers, and somehow Sam Howell just found a way to play like a top 10 quarterback every single time he played against the Eagles this year. The Patriots season also completely ended when Matthew Judon and Christian Gonzalez were ruled out for the season, and then on prime time, Sunday Night Football, Zach Wilson versus Patrick Mahomes was marked on everyone's calendar, and I can't believe it, but Zach Wilson looked like a bottom 20 quarterback. It was amazing. I mean, the vigorous training it must have taken for him to look so mediocre must have just been ruthless. But in the end, ref ball took over and the Big Red took the dub. Then Week 5 began with Thursday Night Football actually giving us some substance. Not a good game, but a good performance. This was kind of the week of the fantasy gods, because DJ Moore went absolutely ballistic, only for Jamar Chase to one-up him on Sunday versus the Cardinals. However, with these incredible performances, a price had to be paid, and Justin Jefferson, the #1 overall pick in every fantasy draft, went down with an injury that would hold him out for multiple weeks. And even more injuries also, unfortunately, began to rack up one after the other around this time, with Thick Lamar going down with his 8th concussion this week, and Matt Milano, the best defensive player the Bills have, went down with a season-ending injury right after Tre'Davious White also went down. So regardless of what would happen in 2023, the Bills would not be at full strength whatsoever. And then we also saw the Steelers pull off one of the biggest upsets of the entire year versus the Ravens in a game they absolutely did not deserve to win. But I guess the second Kenny Pickett ignored Matt Canada, they ended up stealing the game, and Matt was just absolutely bubbling with joy after seeing the walk-off tutty. Also, the contenders at this time started to become pretty clear, with the Eagles continuing to rack up wins, and the 49ers just obliterated the Cowboys despite the bad matchup because... well, then in Week 6, things got a little weird. Everything was just a little bit off. The best NFC teams were all falling, with the Eagles losing to the Jets for the first time ever. The 49ers lost to P.J. Walker, and the Browns. The Lions started to maybe look like contenders, and the Raiders and Patriots played in the most boring game of the entire season in Josh McDaniels' revenge game. For now. Just a pretty relatively uneventful week overall. I guess it was pretty funny to laugh at Desmond Ridder for actually just throwing a game versus Washington on purpose, but hey, at this point that's pretty much par for the course for his development. And then, if last week was weird, Week 7 took everything we thought we even knew about the word weird and shot it through a
Yo, what are they doing?
We started off the week with a bang. Saints-Jaguars was a decently fun game, which is, you know, just glowing praise for Thursday Night Football this year, as two of the biggest disappointments in human history duked it out until the Saints just happened to fuck up a little bit more with Foster Moreau dropping a game-winning touchdown. And then... the Raiders played the Bears. And in my experience as a fan, I'd rather have my ball sack stapled to a plate of aluminum and tased than to face the Bears, because bad things just always happen. And this might have been the worst. Josh McDaniels was at his all-time worst in terms of play calling, and we lost fucking Shepherd University quarterback. Look, I'm used to this. I don't even feel anything anymore most of the time, if I'm being honest with you, but still, sometimes they get me. Sometimes they find new creative ways to hurt me. But the Raiders were not victims to the most pain during this week. No.
Oh,
Not even close.
What was that?
Because the Browns took on the Colts in possibly the most shocking high-scoring game of the entire year. Two slow-ass grounded-pound teams both scored near 40 points, having multiple 60-yard touchdowns.
Oh,
but the
Jr.
game was just butchered by two atrocious calls, and although it seemed like just a flesh wound at the time, turns out the Colts literally missed the playoffs because of this loss. Just fantastic work, Steelers. Way to get the job done. I'm proud. Other than that,
oh, yeah, because the Coach then sold. What is the score, bro? What is the score? This is not real, bro. This didn't happen. Okay. This is all AI, guys. This didn't happen. Chill.
Raw dogged the Lions. The Bills somehow lost to the... I'm proud. Other than that, the Ravens raw dogged the Lions. The Bills somehow lost to the Patriots, and Mac Jones played amazing, dare I say. And then for primetime, we got Eagles versus Dolphins, a game that was set up to be must-watch TV, and it was just not all that. I mean, it was a fine game. Obviously, with hindsight, we know both of these teams were frauds, but both of them were just making mistakes back and forth, with Tyreek Hill also dropping a ton of balls, and on the whole season, Tyreek dropped 14 in total, which was more than the entire 49ers team dropped all year long. And also, speaking of the Niners, on Monday, they lost again, this time to the Vikings, and Charvarius Ward got dunked on again, too.
Yo,
and finally,
AP Mooney.
Kirk Cousins got his name in the MVP conversation, and his real MVP campaign began. To start off Week 8, the Kirk Cousins MVP campaign ended. The captain got his leg ripped off, and as it would be revealed, Kirk Cousins would never be a Viking again. And Week 8 also just gave us, actually bar none, the biggest anomaly of the entire season. The New York Giants and New York Jets played in a game where the Giants had -9 net passing yards. It's actually unexplainable how they did this. Tommy DeVito would have been outplayed by the mascot if he was allowed to play quarterback, and poor Saquon Barkley just was ran into the dirt for nothing. Because the Giants folded in regulation, unfortunately won the coin toss, and because there wasn't a chance in they were going to score, the Jets won off of a walk-off field goal in overtime. Desmond Ridder also finally got benched this week versus the Titans, but the headline remained the rookies. More specifically, the quarterbacks this week, because the mayonnaise masseuse over in Nashville dropped 4 touchdowns in his debut, and then Bryce Young managed to outduel CJ Stroud in the battle of the top 2 draft picks, with the Panthers getting one step further from drafting.
I should have watched this game.
And also, Joe Burrow and the Bengals just played out of their minds versus the 49ers and showed that if they were healthy, they could have actually won it all. The Chiefs then lost to the Broncos this week, and the Raiders got fucking embarrassed by Jahmyr Gibbs and the Lions. But it was all for a good cause, because finally, this blistering buffoon was set to be gone. Anyways, then we move on to Week 9, where we were treated to a little early morning spar between the Chiefs and Dolphins in Germany, and who could have guessed it, but the Dolphins choked on primetime again, losing off of a pretty cool lateral play, and then later on, the contenders list became more and more thin, with teams like the Eagles and Ravens continuing to climb the ladder after wins, but the craziest games didn't even come from particularly good teams this week. The Minnesota Vikings were basically just a plummeting catastrophe after the captain took his leave and Justin Jefferson got hurt, and now we were at a point where Jaron Hall was their starting quarterback, and versus the Falcons, he actually didn't play that terrible, but then he got hurt, which meant that Joshua Dobbs, a man who the Vikings traded for 6 days prior, was in the game at quarterback. Dobbs started off a little bit slow, but eventually he got into something resembling a rhythm, and down by 4, the Falcons just had to stop Josh Dobbs, a dude who literally didn't know what his center's name was, from getting a game-winning drive, and they couldn't. They could not do it. 4th down and 7, Dobbs scrambled away for the first, then found Brandon Powell for a touchdown and ended the game.
See, this is good, too, because some of the games I literally didn't watch. You know what I mean? Like, because when the season going on, you got to think about it's 32 teams. All right? So, am I going to react to every team? Like, no, bro. So, usually what I do is I only react to, like, the top teams that's, like, that people most care about, I guess you could say. And the Vikings and the Falcons, like, come on, bro. You know, who really care about the Vikings and the Falcons? You know what I mean? So I wouldn't react to this game. So now I can actually see what happened.
Away for the first, then found Brandon Powell for a touchdown and ended the game. The Arthur Smith era in Atlanta was truly something. Then we move on to Bucks vs. Texans, the game that formally introduced the entire planet to all 6.7 semi-chubbed inches of CJ Stroud. I mean, Baker Mayfield played one of the best games any quarterback played all year, but it just didn't matter. Everything was going Houston's way with their third or, I guess, fourth string running back kicking and making a field goal. Todd Bowles following the clock to throw the game, and when the dust settled, CJ Stroud had near 500 yards and 5 touchdowns, including a cold-blooded game-winning drive to win it all to Tank Dell. So we had those god-tier performances, and then in this same week, we also saw two of the worst quarterback performances of the modern century. Clayton Tune, a 5th-round quarterback, if you can remember, had to go up against the best defense in football and mustered a solid 0 points, only for Brett Rippon to somehow be worse, barely breaking 100 yards in a blowout loss to the Packers, managing to play so poorly, the Rams just said fuck it and cut the man basically in the locker room. Other than that little circus, Kenny Moore haunted Bryce Young all day for 2 pick sixes, the Bengals and Bills played a pretty fun Sunday night game, and then they finally got Bin Laden, so all was well in the NFL atmosphere. Some weeks just have the tone set for them right away, and Week 10 was unfortunately one of those weeks. Bears vs. Panthers on Thursday night was one of the worst games of the year. And then on Sunday morning, if you really wanted to watch getting a jackhammer shoved up your ass feels like, you would have woken up bright and early for Patriots vs. Colts, and what a game it was. And the later games, honestly, didn't really get much better. Kyler Murray's debut after recovering from his ACL was extremely underwhelming. Cosby started actually playing pretty well until karma showed up, and then we got most of the blowouts besides that, with the 49ers and others dismantling their opponents. But the week was saved on Monday when the Buffalo Bills united us together to give us all one great big chuckle. I don't know why, but all of these meltdowns are always versus or with the Denver Broncos, and this game is no different. Early on, the Bills managed to outduel them. The chef was cooking up a solid plate of E. coli. All the while, Josh Allen started to struggle as the game went on. But James Cook was playing pretty well until they kind of just stopped giving him the ball for reasons, which allowed the Broncos to convert on probably the best play of the entire season. I mean, seriously, Courtland Sutton made the catch of a lifetime, and absolutely nobody talks about it. Oh my God. Anyways, you know the drill at this point. Josh Allen started to do things and simply needed the defense to hold up. However, nobody stopped Samaje Perine. The bearded behemoth carved up the Bills' defense, and on 3rd down and 10, on the 50, Russ just lobs it in the air, and a PI on an underthrow allows the Broncos to walk off with the win.
That's tough.
Or not, because, stay with me here, they missed the field goal. But the Bills had 12 men on the field, which led to a re-kick, and now the Denver Broncos won the game.
Yeah. See, now look, if I was a Bills fan, I would definitely be emailing all the refs and trying to get all of their addresses so I can come to their house and give them a big kiss on their forehead.
Truly one of the football moments of all time. Okay, let's all collect ourselves and move on to Week 11, which then brought injuries, and more injuries. Joe Burrow, who was basically a walking husk all season long, finally got put 6 feet under versus the Ravens, ending his season. And then Mark Andrews also went down in the same game with a season-ending injury as well. And I know he did return for the Chiefs game, but come on, the man was clearly not healthy at all. So that was super fun. And then Geno Smith also almost went down with a disastrous injury, but he was able to return to the game versus the Rams and almost rallied them to a win. And if the Seahawks would have won this game, they might have gotten into the playoffs, but didn't happen, and the Rams now had a leg up on them for the rest of the season. The Bears did Bears things and became the first team in NFL history to choke a game where they possessed the ball for over 40 minutes.
Dang!
And a +3 turnover margin.
Oh my God.
How do you... Okay, whatever. Fucking cool. And then on Monday, the Eagles and Chiefs had a Super Bowl rematch in which it was very clear these teams would have both been just steamed and hammed by their 2022 selves, but because the Chiefs can't catch anything, the Eagles walked away with the win. In Week 12, I don't know what the Big Roger was thinking when he cooked up this schedule, but it was just rough all around. The Thanksgiving games were unwatchable, with the Packers, Cowboys, and Niners just wasting their competition. And on Sunday, we got thrillers such as Titans-Panthers and Patriots-Giants. Like, bro, Why? There wasn't nothing this week, though. Some headlines going around the league at this time were the firing of Matt Canada, another Raider got a DUI. Javon Holland had an extremely rare Hail Mary pick six because Jets. And like most weeks, even if most of the games as a whole were kind of boring, we did get one gem. That being Bills versus Eagles, the battle between teams with the most missed potential from the entire year. And they played like disappointments too. After almost completely choking the entire game away, the Eagles, who, by the way, had one loss at this time, orchestrated a calm and collected drive that was sabotaged by the thicker Kelsey, only for Jake Elliott to bail them out with a field goal. And then it happened. The Eagles' high-end talent came through. Devonta Smith is good at running. Jalen Hurts is also pretty good at running. And Josh Allen's overtime loss fetish continued to be satiated. At this point in the season, the Bills were barely 500, and it was December. So unless they ran the table or something, they had no chance of the playoffs. None. And also, one more thing. On Monday, we got underratedly one of the worst games of the entire year. The Josh Dobbs hype train just went off the rails and slammed into a gas station with 4 picks and a loss versus the Bears. And that was pretty much the end of his inspirational story. And now we've come to week 13. Actually, the most confusing week of the entire year. I couldn't tell you if that's a positive or a negative, but hey, it was pretty fun to watch unfold. Right out of the gate, we got by far the best Thursday night game of the entire season in Seahawks versus Cowboys. And DK Metcalf right away just exploded for a long touchdown, and all game long, both offenses went back and forth, back and forth. It was just so weird for it to be a Thursday night and actually enjoying myself. In the end, though, the Cowboys were just too explosive, and the Seahawks defense couldn't stop anything. And then, if we really want to get controversial, I could say that Titans vs. Colts in Week 13 was the best game of the year, but I won't. But seriously, though, so many people either didn't watch this game at all or straight up forgot it happened. It was just pure insanity. There were multiple special teams blocks, one of them coming late in the third to take the lead, only for the Titans to pick off the 2-point conversion and go all the way to the other end zone. And then the Colts blocked another punt, this one knocking out the punter for the year, which meant that Ryan fucking Tannehill was going to be the holder on PATs and field goals. So then the Titans went down the field and after scoring a touchdown. The funniest part is, Tannehill actually got a solid hold on the extra point, but the Titans just missed it anyways. More bullfuckery happened, with the Colts getting a solid tackle on their own guy, and then we got another time, where the Titans' drive was stifled, but this time they did make the kick, only for Gardner Minshew to deliver the dagger to Alec Pierce and the mortal wound to Michael Pittman. What a game, man. What a game. And that was just the tip of the iceberg for this week. The Broncos and Texans treated us to a fantastic back and forth, only for Russ to throw an awful pick on third down to end the game. The Chargers and Patriots had a 6-0 tussle, which was obviously a joy to watch. Jameis Winston got some PT and only threw 5 passes, but man, I mean, you gotta love the guy. He is so much fun to watch. And the Cardinals and Steelers game was delayed for hours because of weather problems, really just adding to this odd atmosphere. The 49ers picked apart the Eagles, sending them on their own downward spiral. The legend of Jake Browning was born versus the Jaguars in another pretty great Monday night game that was filled with confusing plays one after the other, but none of what I just mentioned can even remotely compare with the NFL season's magnum opus. In Week 13,
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Made his NFL return, and he gave all of us the full Flacco experience. Man threw almost 50 passes in his debut, some of which were perfect, some of which...
All right, my video PC just crashed. LPC.
Vincent Flacco made his NFL return, and he gave all of us the full Flacco experience. Man threw almost 50 passes in his debut, some of which were perfect, some of which couldn't have possibly been placed in a worse spot. You gotta love the man. Week 14 was also another pretty great week. The Falcons completely tanked their season officially after letting Desmond Ridder throw 40 passes in a loss to the Bucs. The Ravens and Rams had an amazing game which resulted in a walk-off Tylan Wallace touchdown in overtime, and at the time, it really looked like the Rams season was cooked. We also got one of the most surprising upsets of the entire year when the Texans got annihilated by the Jets with injuries to Stroud and Moore happening. Then Raiders vs. Vikings happened. I don't know what else to say here, but to save us all, the The later games all sort of came in clutch, with the Chiefs and Bills being the heavyweight classic we all thought it could have been. That unfortunately ended a little bit anticlimactically.
Oh, yeah.
With one of the best plays ever getting erased because Kadarius Toney can't get fucking set. And the aftermath of the game was probably even worse. Mahomes was having a meltdown, Kelsey was pissed, and the Chiefs overall just looked like they were falling apart. And then on Monday, we got a doubleheader, which I'm not usually a fan of, but Jordan Love versus Tommy DeVito was a good time. And then the Titans versus Dolphins game kind of just stole all their thunder when the Finns had another meltdown on primetime. I guess the Shanahan coaching tree is just infected like this, but Jesus, this truly was something
They had a crazy
special.
play this game,
How do you
too.
lose the game to fucking Will Levis up 14 with 4 minutes left? So, okay, that was cool, but Week 15 was even more stacked. We had Raiders versus Chargers, Bengals versus Vikings, Raiders versus Chargers, Raiders versus Chargers, Packers versus Bucks, Raiders versus Chargers, and finally, Raiders versus Chargers. Yeah, what a cool game that was. Besides the best game of the season, this week was actually sort of mid. I'm going to be honest with you. We lost a good man following that massacre, and life just hasn't been the same without that chronic gambling addict on the sideline for the blue and yellow. And that kind of weighed down the whole week, but the Bills managed to stay alive versus the Cowboys, unlocking James Cook now that Ken Dorsey was fired, and the Eagles managed to lose to Drew Lock and the Seahawks off of a crazy last drive and beautiful JSN catch. So, just the ideal start to the Matt Patricia era in Philly. But now that the season was starting to wind down, we finally got the final chapter in a lot of these teams' seasons. The Vikings' year officially basically came to a close, with Justin Jefferson's ballistic second year back not being anywhere
Come on, bro. This place still haunts me at night.
near enough to dethrone Detroit. The Jaguars, a team that I honestly believed could have taken the number 1 seed in the AFC, a team that at one point was famously 8-3, dropped their 4th game in a row in an extermination at the hands of Baker Mayfield and the Bucks, and the playoffs were slipping through their
Yes! Finally! Finally, I can finally understand the references. Thank you, bro. Because I told y'all, bro, I'm such a noob. You know what I mean? I just started watching movies. And I literally just watched Star Wars for the first time, probably, I'd say, 2 weeks ago. And I ain't gonna lie, Star Wars is literally amazing, bro. It's crazy how I never watched it ever in my life. But I watched it, I'm like, dang, like, this is actually, something I'm actually interested in watching. Like, I actually love this storyline. You know what I mean? I haven't watched every single one of Star Wars because it's like a lot. But I think I'm pretty caught up. I think I'm up to Darth Vader versus Luke. I think that's where I'm up. Darth Vader versus Luke. You know what I mean? I think it's Star Wars like 5 or something like that. 4 or 5. And I honestly, when I watch movies, I just want to get a good overview of the storyline so I at least know what's going on. If somebody talk about it just like this. If somebody say something about Star Wars, now I can know, like, what is this character from? Oh, it's Star Wars. That's why I need, you know what I mean? I don't need to know every single detail and understand the whole lore of Star Wars because it's going to be a lot, bro. I already know it is. You know what I'm saying? But finally, I can finally understand shit, bro. This shit is crazy, bro. It's crazy. Look, it's a long time coming. It might seem like, bro, what are you talking about? But, like, I told y'all, I never watched no movies and nothing like that. So it's like, I'm behind when it comes to shit like this. So when it actually I start watching the movies and now I see shit like this, it's like, yes. Finally, bro, I can finally understand.
grimy paws. Meanwhile, the Cowboys and Dolphins took turns seeing who.
And I ain't gonna lie, he funny though. This dude funny. This dude actually got a funny.
Through their grimy paws. Meanwhile, the Cowboys and Dolphins took turns seeing who could want it less when the lights were brightest in a game where Jason Sanders was the best player in the goddamn field, and we also got Christmas games, which, like the Thanksgiving ones, were also pretty disappointing too. Besides one of them, rewatch these highlights and tell me this team can win the Super Bowl. You can't do it. The Chiefs looked so terrible in this game. Everyone looked tired, exhausted, and defeated outside of Mahomes, and we just outworked the Chiefs on every part of the field except for offense. And Kelsey was screaming at the land walrus. It was just not a great look. And then we got Giants versus Eagles after that, which was just embarrassing on all frontiers to be as close as it was. And 49ers Ravens was set up to be a potential regular season classic. But Damn, dude. That Ravens defense was just
knocking
too
it
good.
down.
And Brock Purdy's 4 interceptions sealed the game in the early third, with Lamar overcoming an elite swing move by our boy number 49 early in the game. Week 17 was also kind of boring, not gonna lie. Joe Flacco was perfect as always versus the Jets to clinch the playoffs for Cleveland, and the Lions may have been robbed, maybe not versus the Cowboys.
No,
where
he
they
was
had
robbed.
A confusing 2-point conversion attempt that was called for a legal man downfield, but in the end, honestly, that game really had no bearing on anything. Lamar effectively clinched the
we really wanted to see the Cowboys in the playoffs, a full redemption arc, but they was nowhere to be found. Cowboys can't even make it to the playoffs. Meet us in the playoffs. F that regular season. We should meet me in the playoffs. When it really matter. When it really matter.
MVP with a 60-point bomb on the injured Dolphins. David Tepper threw his drink. The Eagles lost to the Cardinals. P with a 60-point bomb on the injured Dolphins. David Tepper threw his drink. The Eagles lost to the Cardinals. I thought this team was going to win the Super Bowl. And then we had Jaron Hall cap off the week with yet another strong contender for the worst, at least first half performance of the year, finishing the first half with 60 yards and a pick in a blowout loss. And now it's time for Week 18, the final week of the NFL season, which almost always has the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. A lot of starters were resting up for the playoffs, but there were still some games that really mattered. First up, we got
Nico
Texans
Reckless
versus Colts, a classic fun game between two teams that weren't really expected to do much in the playoffs, but for the experience they could gain, it was definitely a great environment to be in, with both teams just playing like their usual selves. And after the Texans missed a PAT after a great CJ Stroud drive, the Colts had a chance to spoil Houston's season, and they decided to sub Jonathan Taylor out of the game on the biggest play of the game and watch Tyler Goodson, a Starbucks barista, throw the game in the trash.
And you know, it's now that I rewatched this play, I actually understand what happened. Cause me being a running back or play running back, I understand how this all feels. Okay, 4th down, you have to get this 1 yard. You have to. As a running back, you go out. Do you see how he turned around? He turned around super. He just did everything too fast. Way too fast. Turned his head too fast. You know what I mean? Now, I understand it can be like a little slip screen. So, yeah, turn your head around fast. But when you rush, it's always worse because you're rushing. You're not like... Because when you catch the ball, especially... Slow down time. When you see the ball coming towards you, you have to slow down time. Look the ball in and catch it. But no, that's not what he did. And this is a bad throw, too. This is still a bad throw, bro. Put it in front of him. He's running like this. Turn around. Put it like this. Don't put it down. He had to turn his whole body around. He's not that sweet. He's not that good. You know what I mean? So the running back is rushing, and the throw is bad. And the running back is a mid running back. So what do you expect? You think he was going to make that catch? No. He's not me. He's not me. No. Come on, bro.
Starbucks barista, throw the game in the trash. Sick stuff all around. And the final regular season week was capped off with the Buccaneers almost throwing the division away to the Panthers, but they managed to hold off a scoring barrage of 0 to take the win. And the Bills clinched the playoffs too before even playing the Dolphins because... Oh, you're never gonna believe this. Against the Tennessee Titans, a team that effectively gave up around Week 7, the Jacksonville Jaguars, in a win-and-in scenario, allowed all 6'3", 250 pounds of Derrick Henry's manliness to have his way all day long, with the big man just pegging the Jags one last time in a Titans uniform, and 2 first-half Trevor Lawrence picks put the finishing touches on the most disappointing team in the entire fucking league. And with that, things were shifted into maximum overdrive with the start of the wild card. I'm going to be real with you, though. If you enjoyed the wild card, good for you, but so many of these games were just unwatchable. I mean, I love seeing the Cowboys get blown out as much as you do, even if you are a Cowboys fan, but hey, come on, it's too predictable at this point. The script writers need to at least tease us that something will change next year, right?
Right.
But besides that, it was really just a lot of mid.
Right.
I'd bet like 70% of you even forgot the Steelers made the playoffs. The Browns got
No, I did not know
smoked.
that.
The Eagles had a sad, sad death versus the Bucks, and the Dolphins pretty much just got frozen by the Chiefs. But there was one game. One perfect game that delivered on every expectation I had for it and so much more.
Yes.
Lions versus Rams was pure poetry.
Yes.
And if I had to choose the best game from the entire season, it would be this one. Could the Lions overcome the literal ghost of their past in Matthew Stafford to finally be considered a redeemed franchise? And it turns out they actually could.
Puka was going crazy,
Was it
too.
not easy? Matthew Stafford was the best player on the field all day long, but Ben Johnson was in his duffel this game, eviscerating the Rams defense in what we now know to be Aaron Donald's final game in the NFL.
We
No
made him
matter
retire.
what the Lions did, though, Stafford just refused to die. But in the end, the Lions defense got one more stop on Stafford, who had like one rib left at this point, and an Amon-Ra St. Brown grab for a first down would end the
Ramen!
game, giving the Lions their first playoff win in 32 years. In the divisional round, though, things started to heat up a little bit. Chiefs vs. Bills was once again, like their matchup earlier this season, super fun. And although I firmly believe the Bills would have won this game and maybe the Super Bowl if they were completely healthy, they still had chances to win this one and still blew it after Mecole Hardman fumbled on damn near the one with a chance to ice the game. And with that opportunity,
Was that a touchback?
the Bills did absolutely nothing with the ball, but the Buffalo defense came up clutch again, and Josh Allen and the Bills knew they needed a touchdown to feel really good about their chances to win the game, and it seemed like luck was on their side too. Hell, they even fumbled the ball and got it back, but they just could not get into the end zone, which meant they had to bring out Tyler Bass. And for the following clip, any Buffalo residents over the age of 42 are medically encouraged to look away now.
44 yards, Bass. No, he doesn't make it. Wide right.
Fuck you, wide right again, Taylor Swift's the GOAT, Chiefs are moving on. And other than that game, the Texans scared Lamar for about one half, and then he unleashed the behemoth from below in the second. And the
Thanks.
49ers and Bucks both had comebacks too that would have been more impressive if they weren't both playing against significantly inferior teams to narrow the remaining teams down to 4. So, championship game time. And Ravens vs. Chiefs was a very, very interesting game. Early on, Lamar and Mahomes were just on another plane of reality, but eventually the Ravens offense just could not compete with the Chiefs defense. And with the very little chances the Ravens had to dethrone Taylor, they just couldn't make the most of them, with L'Jarius Sneed making the best play of the entire playoffs to save a touchdown, and Lamar's final pick iced it once and for all.
And Lamar super forced this ball. Super forced it.
Mahomes was going back to the Super Bowl. And then, look, bro, I've had to talk about this game in my Lions video, in my Niners video, in my playoff recap, and now again? Well, why? Why do I have to torment myself like this? But to make it quick and as painless as possible, the universe itself will not allow the Detroit Lions to make the Super Bowl. And the reality is that the Lions were just playing a perfect football game in the first half, and all it took was for someone to pull one singular string for the entire game to just unravel. Drop, 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 fumble, dropped pick off of a fucking face mask later, and the 49ers were back in the driver's seat, and because they were the better team, the defense closed it out, and the Lions died on the same hill that got them so far, going for it on fourth down more than almost anyone. Now, I'm assuming all of you probably watched the Super Bowl, but I'm personally still baffled as to what Shanahan's plan was all game long. He was so conservative and way too over-reliant on the defense, and I would say after watching the whole game multiple times at this point, the only time I thought Shanahan made a really great call to be aggressive was going for it on that fourth down early in the fourth, because if they didn't have that fucking extra point block because Jake Moody can't figure out how gravity works, they could have won the game right then and there. But not only was luck not on the 49ers side, but neither was Patrick Mahomes. And any answer other than this guy for being the best player in the NFL is simply just wrong. I don't want to hear it. The man carried not only one, but two of the most clutch drives on the entire season. one to tie the game, the other to win it. And after Chris Jones clutched up and Kyle Shanahan clutched up too by electing to receive, finally, Mahomes did it. Rashee Rice made plays, Kelsey made plays, but Mahomes to Mecole Hardman was the final play of the season. And what a way to end off the year with an absolutely thrilling Super Bowl and the official undisputed birth of an NFL dynasty. Anyways, if you like this video...
Wow, bro. This is a W video, bro. I definitely got to check some more videos out. Let me know in the comments if I want more from this channel. I love y'all. Oh, we go!